there. It's really good to see you. Thank you, Paul, so much for your invitation to be able to join you today. I'm really pleased to be here. So the theme is gentleness in a time of roughness. On the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus, in the Beatitudes, which are the beautiful attitudes of God's kingdom, he talks about, well, the world sees it this way, but in the kingdom of God, it's completely the opposite way round. And I think that's nowhere more obvious than in the world of films. I don't know if you like films, but I absolutely love them. And in the 20th and 21st century, heroes. What does a hero look like in film? And if you're looking at blokes, it might be Clint Eastwood or Tom Hardy, Daniel Craig, Liam Neeson, Sylvester Stallone or Matt Damon. Wow, they're real men. Is that what a real man should look like? Or if you're looking at women, is it someone like Sarah Connor from The Terminator or Uma Thurman from Kill Bill? I mean, these are tough cookies. And these people are famous for being tough. Is that what we want to be? Are we trying to be like them? So often the tough guys or tough girls, really they're just insecure. It's fear or hatred that drives them to look invincible. Nothing hurts them, right? Wrong. They're simply insecure. They're not confident enough to be gentle. And so today's title is Gentleness in a Time of Roughness, when the world seems so for tough people. So first of all, what is gentleness? It might be described as the same as meekness, but that probably doesn't help because we hardly ever use the word meek. Well, it's not being weak, it's being strong, yet choosing not to assert or prove that strength over others. So it's a kind of humility that even when we're under pressure, we give way to another person, even if we don't have to. I'm a Guernseyman, and on the island of Guernsey, there's a peculiarity of driving. Where you have junctions, we do have traffic lights, but we often have a sort of square of a yellow grid, and it's called a filter in turn. And the way it works is whoever gets to the junction first automatically has right of way from whatever direction, and then the second person. Now this plays out really well if people remember the order they came in, but some people are very pushy. They want to assert, I'm sure I was here first, and others hang back even though they were there first. You're saying, come on, get on with it. That's when I realised I'm not very gentle. So it's not having a bad self-image to be gentle, it's just choosing sometimes to let others go first. So either of those, being too pushy or being too hesitant, both cause problems. So here's 3 questions. First of all, what's the difference? How would you quickly sum up? What's the difference between weakness and meekness? What's the difference then between weakness and meekness? Secondly, how would you do at a filter in turn if you were driving? Do you tend towards being slightly too pushy, asserting your right, or are you slightly hesitant? Ooh. And has that got anything to do with gentleness anyway? And thirdly, how gentle are you naturally? On a scale of 1 to 10, when you're not really thinking about it, if 1, you're very rough with people, to 10, you're just like Jesus. What's your sort of normal setting? So I've got a couple of images that I hope will take us further into thinking through What is gentleness about? When my wife and I got married, this was one of our wedding gifts. They're called champagne flutes. And the right way to drink champagne, which doesn't happen very often in our house, is from these glasses. And they're really super thin glass. And it's just fun to drink from them. But when we do use them on those rare occasions, I'm very careful who I let do that, because the glass is so thin. I don't want to break them. And so washing and drying has to be done pretty carefully. I wash and dry them with gentleness because I value them. And if I say I value other people, I should treat them also with gentleness. I value them and I don't want them broken by my behaviour. So gentleness with people. The second image is from my teenage years. I learned the guitar, and I was buying a guitar off a lovely older Christian guy. And I'd offered him, with hindsight, I'd say, an embarrassingly small amount of money for a really great guitar. And he sold me this beautiful Yamaha guitar. And when I asked, he even gave me a hard case to protect it. Wow, it was such a brilliant bargain. It was only much later I realised I didn't get one over on him. He's just a lot more like Jesus than me. He let me win. I was pressing so hard for a bargain, and he let me think I'd won, when actually he was simply a beautiful, gentle, kind, humble guy. I feel embarrassed about it to this day. Paul, writing to the Galatians then in chapter 5, verses 22-23. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. They're not the only good qualities, but they're 9 fantastic qualities. And we're thinking about gentleness. I do encourage you to learn that list of 9 and even pray it as a daily prayer. Breathe out the things that you lose your joy over, or your peace, and breathe in the Spirit of Jesus. But we can do that with gentleness too. In his letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 5, Paul writes, "Let your gentleness be obvious to everyone." How could we become famous for being gentle? So I'd like to ask you, can you think of really obvious practical ways we could learn to behave in a more gentle way? For me, one small example, when I'm pressured, if I'm at my desk working hard, I often let the phone ring for 2 extra times, even if I've got to it in time. And in those 2 rings, I simply pray, God, help me to be more gentle and kind to this person. I don't even know who they are yet, but I'm about to speak to them, and I want to spill out over them with kindness and gentleness, not with a spirit of anxiety, hurry, or frustration. Lord, help me to slow down. So can you think of some concrete examples of how you could learn to behave with gentleness? There's my phone now. How about that? In Matthew chapter 11, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Those are fantastic words. Matthew 11, 28 and 29. So Jesus uses this image of two oxen and a beam of wood, a yoke is put on their necks, and together as they go forward they plough. The yoke. And if we are yoked to Jesus, it means we're walking in step with him. That's what discipleship is all about, being in step with the yoke of Jesus upon our necks, going in the same direction. So just to ask, Jesus says that his yoke is easy, and that means it doesn't rub, it's not chafing on the neck. Right at the moment, what are you finding difficult about trying to walk in step with Jesus? And secondly, if his burden, he says, is light, but to us it's feeling heavy, that probably means we're carrying the wrong burden. So what would you like to stop doing to be more like Jesus?